All right, let's jump right in. If you're a leader in healthcare, you know better than anyone that every single day brings its own unique set of challenges. We're here to talk about a mental toolkit, really a new way of thinking, for not just facing those daily obstacles, but for actually turning them into your biggest strengths. So let me kick things off with a question that might sound a little weird at first. What if the very things that cause all that friction, the super complex cases, the system hangups, the team conflicts, what if those weren't just problems to get past, but were actually opportunities in disguise? I mean, let's be real. The pressure in a hospital is just immense. As leaders, whether you're a physician, a nurse, or an advanced practice provider, you're doing so much more than managing schedules. You're navigating life and death decisions, you're dealing with complex team dynamics and systemic hurdles, often all at the same time.
Yeah, I'm guessing this list looks pretty familiar. From the incredibly intricate details of a patient's case, all the way to that deep burnout that just creeps in after a long, hard shift. These are the daily realities. They're the friction points that can really wear a team down.
And here's the thing, you are not alone in facing them. These exact challenges are right at the heart of conversations that are happening right now among your peers in the Culture Coalition. So what we're talking about today draws from some of the core ideas being discussed there, timeless wisdom that can help us reframe these very modern problems. So how do we make that shift? Well, we start with this really powerful, kind of counterintuitive idea, one that's rooted in ancient Stoic philosophy. The obstacle is the way, not something in the way. No, the thing itself is the way forward. And look, this isn't some new age self-help mantra. Almost 2,000 years ago, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote this down in his private journal, which we now know as Meditations. He understood that the very thing blocking his path was actually creating a new one for him. There's this simple story that makes the whole idea just click. A king puts a giant boulder in the middle of a road. So many people come by, they complain, they blame the king, and they just walk around it. But finally, one man decides he's going to move it. He strains, he struggles, but eventually he pushes it aside. And what's underneath? A purse full of gold and a note. The real reward wasn't just the gold. It was the improvement that came from actually taking on the challenge. So what's the philosophy behind all this? It's called Stoicism. And no, it's not about being some emotionless robot. It's a practical system for thriving in high-stress environments. And it does that by getting you to focus relentlessly on the only things you can actually control: your own perceptions, your actions, and your will. Okay, so where do we begin? It all starts with mastering your perception. This is the first of the 3 disciplines. It's not about what happens to you, it's about the story you tell yourself about what happens. Just look at the contrast here, it's fascinating. So a critical piece of equipment fails. The reactive mind immediately goes, "This is a disaster. Who's to blame for this?" Panic sets in. The Stoic mindset, on the other hand, says, "Okay, this is the situation. What is in my control right now? What can we learn from this to make our system better?" As a leader, that little shift, well, it's everything. So how do you actually do this? The key is to strip away all that emotional baggage and just see things for what they are. The ancient general Pericles showed how to do this perfectly. An eclipse starts and his sailors are terrified, thinking it's a bad omen. He doesn't panic. He just holds a cloak over a man's face and asks, "Are you afraid of that darkness?" Of course not. It's just a shadow. He broke the problem down with pure logic. Aurelius really drills down on this. He reminds us that external events don't actually have power over us. Our judgment of those events does. That difficult colleague isn't making you angry. Your perception of their actions is what's creating the anger, and you are in control of that perception. But a calm perception isn't worth much if you don't do anything with it, right? And that brings us to the second discipline, action. This is all about taking what you now see clearly and turning it into deliberate, focused effort. When you're facing a really complex patient or a huge systemic failure, it's so easy to feel completely overwhelmed. The Stoics advocate for the process. You just forget about the final outcome. You focus only on the very next step right in front of you. Do it well, then move to the next. In a crisis, this is what keeps you grounded and moving forward. And history is just packed with examples. Take Ulysses S. Grant. He was completely stumped by the fortress of Vicksburg. Every direct attack failed. But he didn't quit. He just kept acting, trying, failing, adapting. And this relentless, persistent action is what led him to a completely unorthodox strategy that nobody saw coming. His failures weren't the end. They were the data that led him to victory.
So you've got perception and you've got action. But what about when things are just truly awful? When the obstacle isn't a puzzle to solve, but a tragedy you have to endure? That's where the third and final discipline comes in, forging an unbreakable will. This is your inner fortress.
I want you to just picture this for a second. Thomas Edison, late in his life, is watching his entire research facility, his whole life's work, burn to the ground. I mean, it's an almost unimaginable loss. Years of prototypes, notes, priceless equipment, all of it just gone up in smoke. And in that moment of absolute devastation, when most people would just collapse, Edison's will kicks in. He didn't see ruin. He saw a spectacle. He found something, anything, to embrace in the middle of a disaster. Now that is the sign of an unbreakable will. You know, that attitude actually has a name in Stoicism, amor fati. It means a love of fate. It's really the next level of resilience. It's not just saying, okay, I'll get through this. It's saying, this is happening, it's part of my story, and I am going to use it. I will love it, because it's making me who I need to be.
And this quote from Marcus Aurelius, man, it just perfectly ties all three disciplines together. Objective judgment, that's perception. Unselfish action, that's action. Willing acceptance of all external events, that's will. That's all you need. It's a complete formula for resilience, right there. So let's bring this all back home. Why does any of this ancient philosophy matter to you in your role today? Because with this mindset, a difficult case is no longer just a problem. It's a chance to innovate a new care protocol. An interpersonal conflict isn't just drama. It's a chance to build a stronger, more honest team. This is the mindset that turns leaders from just managers into legends. So I'll leave you with this. When you walk into your next shift or your next meeting, you are going to face an obstacle. That's pretty much guaranteed. The only question is, what are you going to do with it? What obstacle will you transform into an opportunity today?